What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining us this week for this week's episode of the Reseller Greatness Podcast. And I just want to give thanks to everybody who has been listening. We're up to episode 13 or 14, maybe even 15 right now. And I am truly humbled by the amount of people that do listen, all the comments in the section underneath the video. I read every single one of them. I answer every single one of them. And I just want to truly say thank you. Thank you for taking the time to spend your time with us and listen, whether it's just me or if we have a great guest on. I just want to say thank you first and foremost for taking the time out to listen to these. And I do hope that they are helpful and they do provide value. That is the absolute aim of the channel. So all the videos that we put out, the schedule that I'm working with is on Monday is more in the field. A lot of actionable advice, a lot of Bolo brands, things like that. On Wednesday night, I do a live Q&A at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And we sit in there hour and a half, answer all the questions you guys have. I really love that. The engagement on those Q&As has been excellent. And then Fridays, I've been dropping the podcast, either solo or with some great guests. So I think talking to the guests, I've really learned a lot. And running the group with 2,000 people in it, I've talked to a lot of people who resell. Everyone has an interesting story. Everyone has an interesting background. Every single person has challenges, me included. Life is life. Life is not easy. There's always going to be ups and downs. Things happen every single day. And for me, all throughout the day, I like having, the computer on, listening to a podcast or just listening to something, even if I'm halfway listening. I'm a big believer in like listening to stuff. And even though you're not fully paying attention, I still think the brain is powerful enough to hear it and grasp it and at least have it somewhere locked away where, when the time comes, you still have it. So I remember like as a kid, you want to cram for the test, but like you're unprepared. So like you record a tape and you put it on your headphones and like you listen to it while you go to sleep. I don't know if it works that great, but I do believe there is something where if you are listening, even not fully, you can still retain some of the information. And that's why, like for me, I like to listen to a lot of higher level stuff. I like to listen to a lot of real estate stuff. I just like to be around the atmosphere of like really big numbers. I think that's like very inspirational. And even if I'm not fully paying attention, I like that kind of coming into my ecosystem and then getting into my head. I think that that is very beneficial for me personally. And every so often, probably once or twice, maybe three times a year, I'll hear something and it'll stop me in my tracks. And last week I was listening to something. I'm not exactly sure what it was because I was upstairs and it was playing downstairs, but it's some kind of channel where the guy interviews, high level entrepreneurs, CEOs, people that make millions and millions of dollars a year. And what stopped me in my tracks was he was interviewing somebody, and the guy said, "Your dream job is still a job." And that kind of made me ponder, made me think. And it's absolutely correct. Our dream job is still a job. And I know a lot of people choose to resell, to sell on eBay because it's flexible. They don't want to have a boss. They don't want to answer to a manager, things like that. And we really think that doing this kind of is the dream job. Like we get to do exactly what we want to do all day. We don't have to answer to anybody. We can set our own schedule. We think that we can make the kind of money that we want to make. And many of those are true. But at the end of the day, many of those things that are true end up being challenges for a lot of people. Not only challenges for a lot of people, reselling is hard. It's very hard. It's still a job. It's not fun. It's not totally awesome every single day. Is it awesome sometimes? Absolutely. But it's still a job. And this is a job that we voluntarily sign up to do every single day that we do the job. And I think that when people start doing this, they think that they're going to realize immediate success. And maybe to a small scale you do. But I think that the immediate success on eBay is much more of a marathon rather than a sprint. We all know it takes time to build up our store in order for us to get daily sales or consistent sales. That takes time, a lot of time. Takes a lot of learning, research, brand awareness, brand knowledge. All of that stuff takes time. And every now and then I'll get someone who'll write me on Instagram and they'll say, you know what? I've been listing every single day, 3 items a day for 2 weeks, and I've only sold 1 or 2 items. Absolutely true. Absolutely. This is a marathon, not a sprint. We have to take advantage of the compounding effect on eBay. We have to take advantage to the consistent effect on eBay. eBay wants us active on a daily basis. Daily basis is 7 days a week, technically speaking. So like this is not a job that comes with PTO. This is not a job that comes with vacation time. This is not a time that comes with like accrued time off the more that we put into it. This is a job that is 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week because eBay doesn't turn off. And for me, a lot of you guys know I started in the beginning, pile in the corner, listing a couple of items, all the way up to 50,000 items, #1 in all the categories, millions of dollars in sales, all the way up to 5 employees, 3 people who took photos and listed, and then 2 people who did the shipping. And I will tell you this, because of eBay, the beast that eBay is, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, 7 days a week, who do you think packed on Christmas? Me. I packed on Christmas because Christmas sales still come in because eBay doesn't turn off. It doesn't go, it's Christmas. We're going to come back tomorrow. It doesn't happen like that. And if we say, well, don't pack on Christmas, it got to the point where we couldn't catch up after Christmas. We had to pack every single day. Otherwise, we would not be able to catch up. So it gets to a point where it absolutely can turn into something that never ends and never stops. So for my business at the peak, we had to ship on Saturday and Sunday. And on Saturday and Sunday, I would have to go in and do like second shift on shipping because the worker would get out at 3 or 4 o'clock. So I would go over there on Saturday and Sunday and I would do the second shift. So like during the Super Bowl, I was at the warehouse packing because if we don't get it done, we have to go, there's no way to catch up on Monday. And since eBay has that time clock of all of our items have to get out for our handling time, there is no, oh, don't worry about second shift because it's the Super Bowl. We can catch up tomorrow. There's just not enough time in the day. So like nobody has any obligation to build it to that level where it does never stop. But we need to understand that eBay does not stop. So for the pros of it, of I wake up and I make money, great, made money overnight, that's great. But you also have to pack stuff that's sold overnight. You also made sales over the weekend and those items need to be packed. Now, for most folks, they don't have to pack on the weekend. We pack Monday morning, great. But eventually we might get to the point where we have to start packing on Saturday and Sunday because there's not enough time in the day on Monday. So like this beast, if you take it as high as it will allow you to take it and as high as you wish to take it, it does become something that literally never stops. And when I printed 250 items, we knocked everything out. When you push refresh on awaiting shipment, there's 100 more to print. Just doesn't stop. And I think a lot of people can relate to the nature of eBay that just doesn't stop, no matter what the scale is. And inside of the group, we have talked about and, developed a way of being able to take some paid time off, being able to take some vacations, being able to, do 7 days of work in 5 days. And that's by utilizing the draft bank. So the concept of the draft bank is one or two ways. One can be 7 days worth of work in 5 days. If you're doing this, You start your draft bank by, let's say you list 10 a day. You list 12, two go to the bank, you list your 10. Tomorrow you list 10, your two go to the bank, we got four in the bank. You list 10, two go to the bank, we have six. So on and so forth, where you are afforded an extra 20 listings every single weekend where you can take the time off. So in that scenario, you would really have to list 15 items a day, Monday through Friday, and then you would have the 20 for your time off on the weekends, which is a great thing. It kind of removes the 7 day a week grind aspect from eBay. So you can either do that, or you can, build up a draft bank where if hey, I'm going to have doctor's appointments, my kid has stuff coming up, spring break is coming, summer's coming. I want to go on a vacation. You can utilize the draft bank for that too. So there are ways that we can kind of take a step back and, grind is kind of like a word that is taboo or like, shunned. So we're not talking about like 24/7 grind, grind, grind on eBay. We're just talking about the nature of the beast that eBay is. And, we don't have to work 20 hours a day unless we want to. You can, you have my blessing. Hats off. I love it. But even every single day, the long hours that we are required to do because of all of the different hats that we have to wear, we have to be our own buyers. We have to be our own merchandisers. We have to be our own photographers. We have to do our own data entry. We have to be our own warehouse worker. We have to be our own picker and packer, shipper. We have to manage logistics. We have to do our own marketing with our sales and markdowns. We have to be our own accountant, our own bookkeeper, our own liquidator. We have to be our own manager. We have to be our own advertiser. We have to be our own boss. If you have employees, you have to hire, you have to fire. You have to be your own human resources. That's 15 or 20 jobs that we have to do as eBay sellers, as small business owners. So by voluntarily doing this, by signing up to do this, by waking up every single day to do this, we're not doing one job. We're really doing 20 different jobs. And I'm sure that list I have forgot other jobs that we are expected to do on a daily basis. And to do this and not be on the grind, like, this is a job. And for everything that's positive about it, there are drawbacks to it. But unfortunately, that's the way working for yourself, and that's the way eBay and reselling goes. Even if you had an ice cream store, before you're able to afford an employee, you're working at the ice cream shop 7 days a week. You're there. That's part of getting a small business off the ground. And, a lot of people, they talk about hourly wage. This is what I'm worth per hour. I mean, I'll tell you straight up, there were times in my eBay career, especially in the beginning, where if I had to calculate how much I was getting paid per hour, it was probably $2 an hour. Because I was doing stuff I had no responsibility doing. I was doing stuff that was taking way too long for something that shouldn't take that long. And I was just naive to everything, and I didn't know how to do stuff, and I was figuring it out. And if you calculated it out, because the sales weren't tremendous back then, I was probably working for $2 an hour. And I think everybody has to go through that. I think if you're going to run your own business, you have to go through that pain of doing things incorrectly or trying to figure it out or not being optimized, where you're not really seeing the benefit of what you're doing today. But hopefully we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We can see the horizon, and we can see things getting better. So for me, I did that. I've been there. I've been $2 an hour business owner, done it. But I think that, understanding this concept of eBay being 7 days a week, not turning off, I think that we need to understand that when we choose to do this. And I think that those guys having that conversation of your dream job is still a job, that made me really reflect on everything that I've done up until this point when we're talking about eBay. I think that A lot of people do it because they want the flexibility. We have kids, we have a family, and I've been there. I can speak from experience. I had a son when I was 18 years old. He'll be 21 this year, and I was a single dad. I had no help. I took him to school, picked him up, took him to all his activities. I did it by myself. I can truly, truly relate to, you know, very demanding personal life and trying to run a business. So, like, for all the pros, I think those are equally and opposite as cons. So, for the flexibility aspect, flexibility is kind of like the grim reaper for a lot of resellers because we do have the option to be flexible. And I think that most jobs with a strict schedule probably outperform something with more flexibility. So we joke about it a little bit in the group. Someone will say, hey, how come like I can only do 5 in 5 hours, but like your employees can do 120 a day each? And I tell them that if they came to my warehouse, Tech and Sports Incorporated, that they would do 120 a day each because that is what is required and that is the schedule that allows for it. But at your home, there's no real schedule. There's no boss to make sure that you're doing a good job. It's just, I have the day to do this, so it's going to take the whole day to do it. And I think that the amount of time that you allow yourself to do something, that's how long it's going to take. So if you know today, you wake up today and you say, hey, I don't have anything else to do. I have 18 hours before I'm going to go back to sleep. I just got to knock out my eBay work. It'll take every single one of those 18 hours for most folks because your job or your task is going to grow to the amount of time that you have allowed. And they have the saying that says, if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person. If you don't have a lot of time to do something, you get in, you get out, you knock it out. So I think that, you know, like I said, that grim reaper of reselling is the flexibility, is the lack of structure. And, there's a reason why jobs are heavily structured. There is a reason for that because that heavily structured is a direct correlation for performance. And, if you are going to spend 12 hours on an eBay day, we need to have 12 hours of results. It's very difficult to spend 12 hours working on eBay and not have 12 hours of results to show for it. You want to talk about a grind? That's a grind. But if you worked 20 hours a day and you could provide 20 hours of results, that's less of a grind than working 6 hours a day and not having 6 hours of results. You just spent 6 hours and you have 30 minutes of results. That's difficult to do. But if we had bosses, we had people looking over us, we had supervisors, we would not be able to stay in that position. So we talk about a lot taking a time audit. And what a time audit is starting the clock. Okay, I need to take 10 photos. Start the clock. How long is this going to take? Let's say it takes 30 minutes. Great, no problem. That's a baseline. There is no requirement or recommendation for how fast your photo should be because everybody is different. We're all photographing different stuff. We all have challenges. Maybe you have a bad back. No problem. We just need to establish the baseline, however long it takes. Log it. Time to list. Start your time audit. However long it needs to take, log it. And that is our baseline. We need to establish that baseline. But what usually happens and what is funny and interesting is every single time we do the time audit inside of the group, those people say that was the fastest I ever got done with my day. So even if that's a silly game you have to play with yourself, do a time audit and just pretend, you have to race the clock or be accountable to the clock. A lot of times that's really all it takes. Sometimes in my days of listing 120 a day when I was dead dog tired and I didn't want to do it, I would pretend that I was training somebody. And by me training someone how to take photos, by me training someone how to list on the computer, it required me to be on my A game and it required perfection because you can't look like a buffoon and you're training somebody. That's not professional. So there would be times in my career where it's 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm listing, and I would pretend there was someone right behind me that I had to train on how to do this. That helped me a lot. Something silly like that really helped me a lot. So something silly like doing a time audit, and the real and true reason behind doing a time audit is you want to see if you're getting better, if you're getting quicker, if you're getting more streamlined. So if you do a time audit this month, do another one next month and see, hey, am I getting better? Am I getting better with my process by, you know, subtracting things that maybe I don't necessarily have to do? Am I getting better just by doing more reps? Am I getting better by doing more practice? Am I getting better by picking up better items that don't need enough prep or don't need as much attention? And hopefully your time audits, you start to see your time come down and you start to see, you be more productive, get more done in the same amount of time. But I think that if we are really honest with ourselves, really, really honest with ourselves, and we did a time audit and we had a sheet on Excel, if we are really honest with ourselves, the biggest line on our time audit sheet would probably be time wasted. How much time on our Excel sheet is for photos? How much time on our Excel sheet is for listing? How much time is for picking, packing, sourcing? How much time on our line audit in that column that says time wasted? I bet that would be the leader for a lot of people. Time wasted. Are we tracking that? Are we conscious about our time? Do we not know where the time is going? Who tracks time wasted? If you tracked time wasted, I bet we would waste less time. But that is the scary reality of doing this, is that we are our own boss, so there is nobody who tracks time wasted. When you work for somebody, they track time wasted. They see how often that person's screwing around. That's a time wasted audit that they remember for a rainy day. When it comes time to get the nickel raise or the 10-cent raise or the 25% raise, they bring up the time wasted metric. So if we are really honest with ourselves, are we afraid to look at our time wasted metric, or are we okay with it? And I think that, by not having the structure, I think that there's a lot of complexities in that. If you're working from home, you have a family, you have kids, there's difficulty in setting boundaries. And again, I've been there. I have been reselling since my son was 5 years old, all the way till today. I've been there. And I think that the difficulties in setting boundaries is very, very hard, and every circumstance is unique, and everybody has, different things. And again, I'm not the boss of anybody at all. These are just kind of my thoughts, my own reflection of the sentence of your dream job is still a job. And these are the complexities of doing our dream jobs, which make it a job. And I realize everybody is different, every circumstance is different, and I'm not painting with a broad brush. But I think that if we are able to set some kind of business hours and some kind of schedule and set those boundaries of, hey, dad's door is shut, he's working. If you're not on fire, I need an hour. I got to knock some stuff out. When the doors close, that's working hours. But it depends on the age and it depends on the child. I get it. But the moral of the story is we have to be able to set some kind of boundaries that allow us to have office hours if we want the best results. Now, if we're not looking for the best results, just listen, and none of this applies for you. But if we are looking for the best results, the best that we can do, it would be truly, truly helpful if we can set those boundaries, those office hours. And then, on the other side of the coin, because again, for every single pro, there's an equal and opposite con when it comes to this. Another difficulty when it does come to working for yourself or reselling is the isolation and is the lack of support. So for some people, they excel in that. For some people, that is a huge detriment. So if you're a social butterfly, the isolation is very, very difficult to deal with. For me, I have more of like a lone wolf personality, and I don't want anybody to bother me. And I could just knock out my work and I can excel. And I don't like when people bother me. So for that one helped me a lot. But for the people that are social butterflies, for the people that do need to, have those coworkers, have that communication, I think that a lot of people really struggle with that. And inside of the group, we have the 24-hour workroom where people have their computers on, have their camera on, and everyone's just working. They have their own coworkers. And if they need to ask a question and say, hey, have you ever seen this before? A couple people can chime in, get right back to work, or just keep working. That's how work goes. So inside of the group, I think we do a really good job with building that community and kind of eliminating that isolation as much as possible. And I think that the 24-hour workroom really, really helps a lot with that. Um, and again, that helps some people, but some people would find that a distraction. So it really does depend on the situation. So I think, when we're talking about schedule, having those time blocks, working around family, working around kids, eBay is hugely, hugely benefit when it does come to that. So, what I used to do, I used to wake up early before my son. I would knock out the shipping, knock out customer service, get my son ready to go to school. While he was at school, I would go source, pick him up when he had fourth meal after school, because every kid that grows up as a growing kid, they come home, have fourth meal. While he was doing that, while he was doing homework, I would try to snap as many pictures as possible. And then once he's done with that, he's got to go to baseball. He's got a game practice. Him and I would go out to the field. Once he went down for sleep, hopefully all my photos are done. And then I would list at the end of the night. So that was my schedule for a very long time. Wake up early, knock out what I could, you know, customer service, eBay backend stuff, shipping, source while he was at school. Try to squeeze in photos somewhere where he's entertaining himself or eating or doing homework, and then knock out my listings at the end of the night once he's gone to sleep. And I think that, on that side of the coin, that is hugely positive, and that was a dream job for me at the time, because it's very hard to find a job that will, allow you to drop off your kid at 8 p.m. and then allow you to go pick them up at 2 and then still take them to every baseball game, every practice, never miss anything. Um, and eBay allowed me to do that, which was very, very beautiful. Now, however, back then I wasn't running some mega eBay store, but I was making enough money to pay the bills, and it was truly a dream job. As things get more complex, that dream job turns into a job much faster. And I think that for me personally, my own personal experience, 30 items per day, I had a really, really good balance of like, you know, it wasn't a humongous grind. It wasn't easy, but like it wasn't a humongous grind. Um, After 30, when I jumped to 50, that was a lot more difficult in the terms of the dream job turning into a job. That was when the dream job turned into a job for me. And I listed 30 items a day for a couple of years. And then, once my business could afford it, once my knowledge improved, once my processes became more streamlined, um, once my time opened up a little bit more to allow me to source a little bit more, I did jump to 50, but 50 was way more demanding than 30 was, because it requires a couple more days a week sourcing, more stores. It requires, more brand knowledge, more studying, requires, of course, more photos, more listing, which eventually is going to lead to more messages, which eventually is going to lead to more shipping, more sales, which is great. That's what we all want. But all of that stuff kind of compounds, and at that point for me personally, and it's going to be different for everybody. At that point for me personally, that's when the dream job of, telling people like, oh yeah, eBay is great. Like I can pay all of my bills and work around my son's schedule. That's when the dream job became a job. And it was way more demanding because it took more time to source, and way more demanding just due to the volume and then eventually the volume of sales. And that's when it kind of changed for me personally. So I think that, as eBay continues and as reselling continues to evolve, I think that it's going to become more demanding on all of us. And I think that that switch from dream job to job, I think everybody is going to hit it at one point or another, even if you never increase your listings past where you are, because, it is getting more competitive. There's a lot of people who are doing this as their dream job. Very, very much so more competitive. As we know, the thrifts are raising their price. And all of this is just going to result in us having to do more, having to get better, and doing more, getting better is only, there's only one way to do it. And that way to do it is by investing more time. And usually when you're starting out your business, you're not making a lot of money. So you have more time than money. And that's where we get into that, business building phase of making $2 an hour, because we do have more time than money. So we do whatever it takes to build our business and hopefully try to get up to like a good wage, a respectable wage, rather than thinking to ourselves and saying, you know what, for the amount of time that I'm putting in here, I would be better off going back to the workforce and dealing with a manager and dealing with a commute and, taking on a job. But if we can get over that hump and kind of get to the horizon, or that light at the end of the tunnel that I spoke about earlier, you know, in my experience, in my opinion, it's way more beneficial to build your own business, something that you have pride in, something that you are responsible for. And eBay is, a great vehicle because you can determine how much money you want to make. And that's going to be, you know, directly in line with the amount of time that you put in and the amount of listings that you put up that are quality items listed the correct way. So there's been times in my eBay career, like when I've increased the listings, and of course, you're not going to realize the gains automatically because it's very simple when you figure out if you're going to realize the gains. We can all go to our traffic tab and it tells us our conversion rate. And if you have a conversion rate of 2%, that means for every 100 items you put up, on average, you will sell two. So if everything stays exactly the same and our offer or our product does not decrease or get worse, if your store is 200 items with a 2% conversion rate, you will sell 4 items a day. If your product gets less and your offer gets less, then maybe your conversion rate drops to 1%, and now you need 200 items to still sell 2 items. If your product gets better and your offer gets better, the smaller store you need to give you more items sold on a percentage basis. So, I think that ability which eBay offers us, I think is something truly special, and I think is something a lot of people take for granted. I took it for granted in the beginning because I looked at it as a vehicle of like just to pay my bills, and like I don't have to drive to a job, I don't have to deal with anyone. I can pick up my son and do everything we have to do. Life is great. Like I really, really found the glitch in the matrix. I wasn't putting in, you know, huge hours. Because maybe I was only listening 10 or 20 a day back then. Um, and once I figured out my processes, I was at that comfortable level for a good while. And then, you increase the listings. And once you do that, you don't get the immediate payoff because, like we talked about, your store level has to grow in order for you to realize those additional sales. So if you're listing 10 and you go to 15, every single day your store is going to net 5 items, net 5 items. After 10 days, you've netted 50 items. So now your 100 item store is now 150. So if it has a 2% conversion rate, you should sell 3 items a day. Once you continue to net, you know, 4 items and eventually get up to 200 at a 2% conversion, now you're going to sell 4 items a day. And then you're going to kind of get into the position where your store stays at the same level because you're only netting 0 or 1, which is fine. It's a great place to be. But during that time where you are spending a little bit more time listing, a little bit more time sourcing, more investment is coming out of your pocket. That kind of in between time when you haven't realized the store size, or you haven't, caught up with the sales, the time is very it's a scary place to be. And I've been there at different levels of my life because um, I believe that my listing trajectory was, it was 20 items a day. Then I moved up to 30 items a day. I went to 50, 70, 100, 120. And then after that, I started hiring and we went to 250. So 30 to 50, that's a lot of, investment going back into the business. And you don't know if you are ever going to realize that investment. But if you are able to realize it, your profit is going to go way up, essentially almost double. But I always kind of knew and trusted, I always trusted that if I put the time into my business and I do what I'm supposed to do, eBay will reward me. And every single time I did that, eBay rewarded me. It might have not have been 1 day and 2 days and 1 week, but every single time I was patient, listed my items in a proper way, listed quality items, allowed my store to grow in size, every single time eBay rewarded me. And the reward was way higher than what I ever thought it was going to be mathematically. So I think for those people that are kind of in that stage, that in between stage, in my experience, every single time eBay rewarded me. And I think that knowing that really helped me a lot, especially because I had a lot of thoughts jumping from 120 to 250. I had a lot of thoughts. And I jumped from 120 to 250 profitably. And if you're unsure how that was possible, go back to the podcast a couple of weeks ago where the thumbnail says Techonomics, and you will see that I was stacking cash because I was listing 120, selling 120. I was stacking cash, and I had a lot in my working capital budget inside of my business where even with the additional investment of 130 more items, I was still very, very profitable. So go into the Techonomics video and check that one out. There is a way to grow sustainably. There is a way to grow profitably. We do not have to grow nonprofit because the margins that eBay allows us is not spend $10, make one. You can do that business if you want, but that's voluntarily. You don't have to do that. Most margins are spend 5, make 10, spend 5, make 15, spend 5, make 20, some form of that, whether it's spend 8, make 15, spend 8, make 20, whatever sort of way that you're doing it. There is ways to grow safely, sustainably, and remain profitable the entire time. So during these times where I was, putting more money back into my business instead of all of it going into my bank account, when I jumped from 120 to 250, it took me 11 months to fully realize the gain of getting to listing 250 and selling 250. And that payout was more than I ever could imagine at that level. So I was still profitable and remained profitable the entire way. But once it really kicked in and kind of hit that second gear and eBay rewarded me for my patience, for doing the right thing, for putting in the time, maintaining my consistency, maintaining my discipline, maintaining my schedule. During that time, it was tough. I had a lot of second thoughts. People outside the group don't know this, but I have little kids' crayons, washable crayons for the shower and the tub. I have those in my bathroom. I spent a lot of time, long showers, writing over the math, making sure I was correct, making sure this was not a miscalculation, making sure this was going to work out. Because when you have a large store or a large business, making changes and then pulling them back is like trying to stop a cruise ship. It takes a cruise ship several miles to stop, where it might take a dinghy 1 foot and then you just change direction. So I sat in there for months, trying to work this out to make sure that it was not a massive miscalculation. And again, I trusted every single time I trusted that eBay would reward me so long as I was putting up quality items and I was doing what I was supposed to do. So a lot of people, they ask me and they say, hey, I want to sell on eBay. I want to go full time. What is your suggestion? And number one, first and foremost, is always, if you treat eBay as a full job, you will get full job repercussions from that. So if you go from working 8 hours a day at your job and you want to work 4 hours a day on eBay, if you do part-time effort, you will get part-time results. If you put in full-time effort, you will get full-time results. And it's great to say, like, hey, work-life balance, eBay affords the work-life balance, this and that's fine. If you got a bunch of money and you want work-life balance, great. If you have other streams of revenue and you know you don't really have to depend on eBay and you want to do the work-life balance thing, great. But work-life balance don't pay the rent or the mortgage last time I checked. So I'm talking to the people that actually need to have eBay pay their bills. I'm not talking to the people that want to do this casually or have other streams of income or things that they can lean on. I'm not talking to those people. I'm talking to the people who were like me, that needed this money and depended on this money. Those are the people that I'm talking to. And those are the people that I talk to every single time I come on YouTube. I'm not talking to the other people. I'm talking to the people that actually need this, that depend on this, that need to build a business to take care of their families. That's who I am talking to. So the first thing that I always tell people is I say, if you put full-time effort, you will have full-time results. Because a lot of people think, hey, I'm going to quit my job. It's demanding. I work 40, 50 hours a week. I'm going to sell stuff on eBay. That's an option. But that option is going to get you those results. The second thing that I would highly recommend people is, before they quit the job, and first and foremost, I never give advice when someone asks, should I quit my job? I don't answer that question. That's outside of the scope of a guy on YouTube. I do not answer that question. You have to do what you have to do. I can't tell someone to stay at their job or leave their job. So what I would do, what I would assess is, do I want to put in the full-time effort for the full-time result? And most times that full-time effort is, technically speaking, more hours spent than what you're doing right now. And if that's what you want to do, great. Just know that that's what you are voluntarily signing up to do. Secondly, I would make sure that I have some sort of savings or nest egg that I could rely on to get me through my business getting up to speed. Ideally, not quitting your job until your eBay business or your reselling business makes at least as much as your job does. This is the important part. Not once, not twice, not at Christmas time, not lately, on your worst month. If it was me, I would not quit my job unless my eBay income matched my take-home income from my paycheck on my worst month, and have a comfortable amount of savings. Those would be the only times when I personally would make the jump. Not because sales are gangbusters or, you know, we found this incredible product and we had a great week. Not then. No. And I think that we should forecast and we should plan off of our worst months. So if you do want to increase your listing, it's based off of your worst month. It's not based off your best month. And that's when a lot of people get in trouble as well. So I think that if you are considering leaving your job and going full time, please have savings and please have an understanding of seasonality and sales cycles and base it off of your worst month. And if your worst month, you can, pay all of your bills and still put money away in savings for a rainy day, for an emergency, I would feel more comfortable doing that myself. However, that's not advice for anybody else because I'm never going to tell someone to leave their job when they have a family with kids. You're not going to get that from me. That's what I would assess if that's what I was looking for. So I think as far as sales cycles and seasonality goes, I think that as business owners, we have to understand that on the year-to-year basis. And that's going to be different for everybody. Everyone's going to have different peaks and different valleys. We have to understand that portion of it. And we also have to understand the zoomed out version of that of true economic downturns. Because we are business owners now. That will affect us. And there's a lot of people listening to this right now that probably started in 2019, 2020, 2021, when money was raining from the sky and stimulus was getting handed out. And, we had record sales on eBay and everyone was, floating on bags of money. We were looking like Scrooge McDuck, but those times are gone. And as business owners, we have to be prepared for those and we have to know that those times do come. There are economic downturns. There are things that do happen. There are, events outside of our control that we have to be able to weather if we want to do this for the long term. And if our businesses are not set up correctly, if we are over leveraged, if we are not profitable enough, if we are not growing, then that is going to have a huge impact on our business. And, talk about growing and talk about doing more. Again, another taboo subject, but technically speaking, whether we like it or not, technically speaking, and that's what you get from me, whether you like it or not, if you made $50,000 profit in 2020 and 2019 and 2021, that is not the same $50,000 profit in 2024. Gas goes up, insurance goes up, your groceries have gone up, supplies have gone up, our cost of goods have gone up. A lot of people get hurt because they think that they're sustaining, but technically speaking, we're getting hit a death of 1,000 cuts, and our money does not go as far as we thought it goes or think it goes or want it to go anymore. So in order to offset that or sustain that, we have to do more. We either have to get better with our product, we have to get more product, we have to increase our margins, increase our profitability, and there's only two ways to do that. You increase your profitability by bringing your expenses down, which is very difficult for everything that we just talked about 30 seconds ago. How do you bring your expenses down when labor goes up, grocery goes up, water bill goes up, electric goes up, gas, insurance, cost of goods, storage unit rent, warehouse rent? How do we decrease those cost of goods and be more profitable? That part is very difficult. And the decreasing of cost of goods, you can only decrease so much. You can only decrease your overhead, your expenses, your cost of goods. You can only decrease those so much. You can only decrease all of that to zero. You can't go past zero. But we can increase our profits, increase our sales, increase the amount of output that we have, increase what we are responsible of and in control of. A lot of that stuff we are not in control of, but we are in control of, hey, these are actionable steps that I'm going to take on a daily basis, which will help me increase my overall profit. I don't care about revenue. I care about profit. This actionable step, hey, instead of doing 10, I'm going to do 12. Instead of doing 12, I'm going to do 15. And as a result, if I do this and I trust the process and I believe in eBay that they're going to take care of it, this will result in me making more money where I can at least stay even with the rising costs, inflation, all of that good stuff. Sad to say, sorry to say, we have to do more because a lot of times we have to do more work for the same amount of money for things that are outside of our control. So if you made 50,000 and you paid for everything and 3-4 years later with everything that's gone on, that same 50,000 doesn't stretch as much, you might have to make 60,000 in order to be in the same position you were with $50,000. But in order to get to 60,000, what do we got to do? In a landscape that's way more competitive, in a landscape where all the costs are rising, in a landscape where eBay is changing how they want things done, how do we do that? There's only one way to do it, and that requires us to do more. It's either going to require us to spend more time inside of our business, or it's going to require us to be more streamlined and get more done in the same amount of time. Stop wasting as much time. Be more consistent. Be more on a schedule. Have a process. Have procedures. Have things that we have to do. We can't just do this willy-nilly anymore. That don't work. That don't work. Once upon a time, you can list stuff, forget it, make a bunch of money, live a great, beautiful life, and eBay was the dream job. eBay might not even be a dream job anymore. That might be gone. It might just be a job. And if you have employees, you have complexities, you have a warehouse, you have overhead, you have space, that makes it into more of a job. And, we can look at ourselves or think of ourselves as business owners, but for most eBay business owners, myself included, the value of my business was the stock that I had on hand and not full retail value, the actual cash value. Unless you own your own building, the employees, they're not worth anything. Your laminated standard operating procedure is worth nothing. It's not proprietary. What's proprietary about taking a photo, sitting at the computer listing on eBay, and then packing and shipping your way? It's not proprietary. It's not worth anything. I am the fastest lister. It's worth nothing. My listers are the most dependable, most consistent. That's worth nothing. It's not proprietary. The only value that an eBay business has is your stock, your equipment, and it's the actual cash value for what that stuff is. And actual cash value is like what you can sell it for today. Everything outside of that is not proprietary, it has no value. Your eBay store with all your feedback, there's no value. The only value that has is to a scammer who wants to pull a quick scam based on your reputation and your feedback. That's the only value your eBay store has. And you can't sell an eBay store to one person to another. You would have to be incorporated and you can sell the business and the eBay store belongs to the business. But eBay store has no value. Your reputation on eBay has no value. The way how you list, no value. The only value of our business as eBay store owners, as eBay business owners, as people who work inside of our own eBay store is the actual cash value of the tangible items. Your desk, your computer, your printers, and your merchandise. That's it. That's it. Your customer black book, you don't have it because eBay doesn't give us access to the customer data anymore. We don't have mailing lists. We don't have data on how shoppers shop. I don't know how, Tim in Indiana, I don't know his buyer habits. We don't have that. So like there's not even a book of business that we have. And going and sourcing at the thrift store, no value. Even me having people source for me, there's no value. None. If you have a contract of getting goods, that contract is only good until it expires, and it's only as good as that contract is. And for most people, that's not the only contract in town. A lot of people can get the same contract. So in a lot of facets, eBay being the dream job, It just may be a job. But with that said, like eBay is the best job and the best opportunity that I have ever had. And I am truly 100,000% thankful for every single thing that eBay has afforded me and eBay has allowed for my family. And eBay has always been there for me when I needed it. They've always taken care of me if I've done the right thing. They've changed my position in my life. We are very, very fortunate. We moved to a nice neighborhood, live in a nice house. I've been able to take eBay profits and build other businesses. I've been able to take eBay profits and invest into real estate. I've been able to put my son in a great school, all because of eBay. Because outside of eBay, the last job that I had, I worked at CVS and I was there for 5 years. So I've never stepped foot on a college campus until my son went to school. I didn't go to college. My mom couldn't afford it. I wasn't financially able to do it. And back in my day, going on the internet and looking for scholarships, that really wasn't a thing. So, like, I wasn't educated enough. My mom wasn't educated enough to know that they had these opportunities out there. We just weren't educated enough to know that. So I missed that entire opportunity. Got a job, $10.50 an hour. And I got a raise of 5 cents. And when I kind of questioned it, the district manager looked me right in the face and told me I was lucky for getting that kind of raise. He told me I was lucky I got that raise. And I remember working 50 hours a week as a salary employee, photo lab supervisor at CVS, and my take home check was $314. And I had to take care of my son. $100 a week went to rent because I had roommates. I had to pay bills. Car insurance was $250 a month. And there was a lot of times where I had $5 to get through a 7 day week. And the decision was, do I get chips today or do I get a drink today? I could never get both. And when I found eBay and I found that the opportunities that they do have, it allowed me to be in charge of my own destiny. Didn't have to look for a DM to give me a nickel raise. Be in charge of my own destiny, knowing that if I educate myself, take the time to seek the knowledge, that I can make more money. If I put in more time, I could make more money. If I got a part-time job inside of my own eBay store, I could make more money. Realizing that I can pull money out of thin air, pull money out of nothing, pull money out of stuff that people throw away. Understanding that gift that money is everywhere. If it wasn't for eBay, I never would have learned and understood any of those things. If sales are slow, who gets a part-time job in their own eBay store? We don't ever think about doing that. Go into your store, fix your listings, learn how to do stuff, learn better brands, learn how eBay works, get a part-time job in your own store. I've done it. And doing that pays dividends. It has improved my life immensely. And I am forever thankful for the opportunities that eBay and reselling allows. And it really breaks my heart to the core when people don't quite understand the gift that eBay is. The gift that we all have to be in charge of ourselves and have unlimited earning potential. It is unlimited. You could build a business that does $100 million a year on eBay. and you could reap the benefits from that. And it takes no college degree, no real expertise day one, takes nothing. All it takes is effort and some determination to get it done. So I do appreciate everyone hanging in there and listening to the ramble. I know we went in a lot of different directions, but that struck me this week. Your dream job is still a job. So I've said a lot. I would like to hear your thoughts in the comments. Again, these are just my experiences. I'm not the boss of anybody. I know everybody's situation and circumstances are different, but what is your relationship with your business, with eBay, with reselling through the lens of your dream job is still a job? Because eBay, what we really do on eBay doesn't look like Instagram. What we really have to do every single day doesn't look like what social media makes it look. And I don't know about you guys, but that one kind of stopped me in my tracks this week. So I appreciate eBay. I appreciate the opportunity of reselling. I appreciate every single thing that eBay, my eBay business, my reselling business has done for me. And I appreciate all of you guys. So I thank you very much for listening to this episode, this kind of brain dump. And I really look forward to hearing from you guys. So if you have something, post it in the chat. I read all of it, I respond to all of it. I think it's a great opportunity that we have, but it doesn't come without sacrifices, and anything that is great does not come without sacrifices. Otherwise, everybody would just do it. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. I appreciate all you guys. I appreciate everything. Be great.